Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, Nerd Shit. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I know we've been gone for a minute. It's been a minute since we since we recorded the podcast, but we are back. We have two topics that we are both very passionate about, respectively. We want to talk about Pokemon coming out for the Switch. We want to talk about that. I know there's a lot of Pokemon fans out there, so hopefully, you all can join in on the conversation with us. And then we also want to talk about Photoshop for the iPad. And if you are a graphic designer, if you have Photoshop, if you use Photoshop, if you have an iPad, if you've been following the news, if you've watched the Adobe Max conference, then you already know the BS that is the PS. And yes, we're talking about Photoshop and not PlayStation. but we are going to get into all of that, all of the juicy details that we have and that we want to talk about. And then again, hopefully you all can join in on the conversation in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can tweet at us at NerdShitDaily on Twitter. So yeah, I'm going to pass this over to the boy ShootingStar Sheriff, so he can start off with the Pokemon part of the conversation. So over to you, boy.
All right. Thank you for having me on as always. I always feel like I should say that, even though at this point it's kind of like a dual effort, but whatever. Um, so yes, Pokemon Sword and Shield is definitely has been a hot topic, amongst gaming, especially with the Nintendo and stuff as far as the last few weeks, because as you guys do know, Sword and Shield comes out on the 14th of November. So literally literally in next week, depending on when this podcast comes out. It'll either be next week or this week when the game comes out. Or shoot, the game might already be out. But with Pokemon Sword and Shield has been a lot of controversy. Ever since the game was announced a few months after the game got announced, we got one of the first big confirmations from Game Freak, and that was that there would be no national decks present. And that was such a huge switch up for Pokemon to have no national decks. So a lot of people started being like, why is there no national decks? And come to find out, a few months later down the line, I'm kind of trying to give you guys a timeline as best as I can. They Game Freak did have like an interview, or they did have like, I think it was in a Nintendo Direct or something like that, where they kind of, for Pokemon Sword and Shield, where they announced that they were going to be limiting the amount of Pokemon that were going to be able to be transferred over from your previous games over into Sword and Shield. And then just lately, there was a leak of the entire Pokedex. There's been leaks of the starter transformations and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people, and me included, have definitely been super vocal about how they feel about the Pokedex roster, because there was a leak, not recently, which, I mean, Nintendo has kind of went through and started taking down anybody who's been posting about the leaks, because the game is getting worldwide launch, so whatever leaks come out, it's like, and for Nintendo to take down these leaks, then evidently they're probably true. They have kiboshed, or they have severely reduced the amount of Pokemon you can transfer over, which is kind of crazy, because they also want you to subscribe for this new service called Pokemon Home, which is basically going to be Pokemon Bank just upgraded, where you can take all your Pokemon from like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and bring them into Pokemon Home. So it's crazy because you're paying for this subscription service, but you can't bring all your Pokemon into this newer game. And a lot of them, but it's like really weird, man, because they brought back Charizard, but Squirtle and Bulbasaur are not in this game. You can't bring them over. So it's like they were really, really, really selective about what Pokemon that they wanted to put in Sword and Shield in this new gallery, in the new Galar region. That's the name of the new region. But it's really divisive among the fans. A lot of people like to play Pokemon because of that core functionality of like, I just want to build teams. I want to bring all my old Pokemon over. I want to see what meshes with the new stuff, what doesn't. I'm very much like into. I mean, I play Pokemon casually. Like, I don't really care about I don't really get into the IVs, EVs. Like, I don't really get too much into like the really competitively viable stuff. But I like to try and build like good teams with the Pokemon that I have available to me. You know, I try and work with what I got. So it's just kind of crazy that one of the biggest aspects of battling is like custom, being able to try all these different combinations of Pokemon out, but they've severely limited the number. The game looks great. It looks like it's going to be a great experience nonetheless, but a lot of longtime fans feel a little burned about it. So, and you, Keon, where we were talking about this the other day, how you're coming at it from the casual perspective. I'm looking at it as a longtime fan, and I'm like, these features are kind of hurt. But you were looking at it and you were like, I kind of want to get it. So kind of like tell me, like talk to me a little bit about from what you.
Okay. So again, I wouldn't even call myself a casual fan. I would call myself a sometimes, well, not even a sometimes fan, just like somebody who knows what Pokemon is and can appreciate it for what it is. I mean, I've watched the anime growing up as a kid, stuff like that on like 4Kids TV and all of that, like all, like Ash and all of that right there, right? And back in high school, I used to have the emulators on my phone, the Game Boy emulators, and I would play, Pokemon Yellow and stuff like that from the older versions of it. I never beat any of them on my on the emulators. And then once I got into college and stuff like that, I actually had a Nintendo 3DS, and I bought the Pokemon. I think it was X, whichever was the blue one, whichever was the blue game. I bought that, and I played through the entire game, and I beat it. But I played through it once, and that was basically it. My experience with Pokemon. So, like I said, I enjoy it for what it is, and that's like the only experience that I had with Pokemon. So me looking at this the trailers and stuff like that, like I was excited. I was like, yo, this looks really nice. This looks like a JRPG. It looks good. It like the game is dripping with sauce. It looks like something that I would want to play. And then like I feel like they got everything right about the game. Like again, like I said, I'm not a long time fan, so I don't know the mechanics and everything like that of Pokemon. So, but for me looking at it, it looked like they got everything right. And then you hear about Squirtle's not going to be in the game, and Squirtle's my favorite Pokemon. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of Pokemon, but Squirtle's my favorite Pokemon, all because of the Squirtle Squad episode. Like once I saw that episode, I was like, yo, Squirtle's my dude. Like hands down. I don't care how many Pokemon come out. I don't care how cool their design looks. I don't care how powerful they are. No other Pokemon in existence can top Squirtle for me simply because of the Squirtle Squad episode. Um, and knowing that there's no Squirtle in the game is like, yo, I mean, it hurts me a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, I can play the game without Squirtle, but me trying to put myself in the feet of longtime fans, the people who are actually invested heavily into the Pokemon IP, having a Squirtle is like a big deal for some people, for like some people, right?
Yeah,
Because like you were saying, you can bring your Pokemon from different games into the newer games and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how it works, but I would imagine like you still keep your levels and stuff like that.
yeah,
And like the Pokemon that you named and stuff like that, because people actually named their Pokemon, right? We were talking about you can't put Trico in the game, and Trico was one of my favorite Pokemon in the Pokemon X that I played. Like I spent a lot of time on my Trico within that one time that I played Trico. So like imagine having your Trico from 3-4 years ago, and like you've named them Jerry, right? You name your Trico Jerry. And like Jerry is your boy, you know what I'm saying? You bring Jerry into each and every game because you love Jerry so much. And you find out that you won't have the Pokemon Bank anymore, but you're going to have this new service that you got to pay $5 a year for. And you can look at Jerry on the computer, right? But you can't play with Jerry in the game. And that like hurts a lot of people. So, I mean, I feel like in that aspect they dropped the ball, but again, from me looking at it as someone who isn't heavily invested, the game looks amazing and it's something that I would still want to play and I would have a lot of fun with. And I think even if you are a longtime fan of it, and even if you are someone who's deeply hurt by the roster of Pokemon in this game, if you just gave it a chance, you would still have a lot of fun with it. Because I mean, it's still it's still a Pokemon game. It still looks nice. It's still going to play just like any other Pokemon game. So you're still going to be able to find things that are fun and interesting about it. But I did see a lot of people were talking about like how the animations don't look like they're any new or something like that, and like the mechanics aren't really changed up a lot. I'm not sure. Can you go more in depth with that?
Yeah. So another big thing about the whole Pokemon, like the severe why they've cut down Pokemon, the number of Pokemon so much, is that Game Freak. Like I said, I'm kind of trying to summarize this. So if I get any of this wrong, guys, just put it in a comment. You can link to articles or whatever that you want to. Just inform people. Inform people with accurate information, please. That's the only thing I ask. Don't turn this into like a he said, she said thing. But to kind of go elaborate a little bit more, oh, um, there are some people that found out. I think it was like in a Twitter post or something like that. It was a picture of a Gyarados, and they were like, the models are exactly the same models from Sun and Moon, but they've kind of upres them, and made their textures a little bit sharper and stuff, and made them look nicer. So if that is the case, like I said, we don't know if that's exactly the case, but if it is the case, then it's like, well, why did Game Freak not put all the Pokemon in the game? If they already have the models for all of them, they just need to upres them and slap a texture, and high res some of their textures. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's in and we were talking about this too, off screen or off the mic or off the
Off the
record.
mic, off the screen. Like it depends on where you're watching this or listening to it.
Off video, whatever. But we were talking about this off top, elsewhere, and I
Off the
brought up
podcast, not on the
off the
podcast.
yeah, off podcast. I keep saying stuff. I'm gonna just get right into the point. We were talking about, and I was bringing up to you how every mainline Pokemon game will introduce a feature that's super unique to that game and that game alone. With X and Y, it was Mega Evolutions. With Sun and Moon, it was Z moves, and now with Sword and Shield, it's this Gigantamax feature. It's basically like the Pokemon get like they get like super big or whatever, and they like will give off passive abilities and stuff like that that will last for the turn of the battle. And like I'm not gonna lie, I mean I was kind of on the fence. I mean Z moves looked really cool and interesting to me. Mega evolutions were definitely added like another dynamic and level of play to Pokemon. Now the whole thing with this Gigantamax feature. Some of the Gigantamax forms look really cool, but there are some that I'm like, what? Which, if you haven't seen, go look at Gigantamax Pikachu and Gigantamax Meowth, and then come back to this podcast and let me know. They look ridiculous.
Watch the whole podcast first. Listen to the whole podcast first, and then go look at that, and then
Yeah,
come back to the
come back,
podcast.
come back to the podcast, and then let us know how you feel. But and like there's like cool things, like yeah, they have like this cool like feature where you can like have like a camp set up with your Pokemon. You can make curry and stuff, which that's all fine and cool, but like here's the thing, not every feature in every core Pokemon game is like super loved. Like everybody loves, like from Ruby and Sapphire, everybody loves secret bases. Like secret bases was like you could have like your own little, it was like having your own little home. It was like this little spot that you could pick, and almost out of these certain spots in the region, and you could make your own little base. You could like add like little puzzles and challenges for people that would visit like your base and stuff. Well, they added that with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But you could like visit like other people's bases and stuff. It was a really cool feature, but it was like your own little hideout. It was your own place to chill. But there are some features that were introduced in other games that people didn't really too much care for too in some of those games. So it's just like a lot of people also debate the fact like, okay, what if one of these features aren't that great? They could have just removed that feature and just added more Pokemon. So it's one of those things, like I said, we have to wait till the game releases I am not saying don't buy the game. I'm not saying, I feel like with Sword and Shield, as much as I am a Pokemon fan, I might wait for a review, or I might wait till I see a few YouTubers play it before I might make the decision to go get it. Just because like I mean, it really is kind of nerfing one of the biggest core aspects of Pokemon. And one of the biggest things about Pokemon was just like you build memories with these Pokemon. Yeah, we know they're not real, but you have memories with these Pokemon, even the ones that you take from game to game. Like, I have memories with like a Lucario that I nicknamed Luke because I was like really big into Star Wars at the time and I wanted to name one after Luke Skywalker. So I named one of my Lucarios Luke. And me and Luke has been through the thick and thin of it, dog. Like Lucario is also one of my favorite Pokemon of all. Like, Lucario is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. But that's all besides the point. So like, to know that like I can't bring my boy Lucario into this game is like, it hurts, man. Like, it really hurts because those are memories that I can't share with my Pokemon going forward. So, and like another big thing we also talked about was like, are they gonna make the Pokemon available in a free patch, or is this gonna be some paid DLC? Because I'm letting you know right now, I am totally for a free patch update. But if they made that a paid DLC, people would be really mad because it's a core feature that has
Oh
always
yeah,
been
oh yeah,
in a,
we were talking about that. Like
because
they don't
being
want
able,
that heat.
exactly, that's something they would not want at all. And
They
I'm
don't
not
want that smoke. They don't want no
really,
smoke.
because that's a core feature that has been in every Pokemon game to bring your Pokemon forward, and they're intentionally removing it. They have recognized and acknowledged that they are removing one of the biggest features of Pokemon from this game, and this is the first mainline entry game that they have removed this feature from, or they have heavily nerfed this feature on. So if it's a paid DLC, people are going to be mad because the first thing people are going to say is that no, this shouldn't be. I shouldn't pay for this. This was a core feature that has been in every game. So why am I paying for it now? It was the same thing with Sonic, Supersonic, and Sonic Forces. They made him free DLC, and then they were like, "Oh, he's only going to be free for a limited time, and then you have to pay for him." And then the community got mad because they're like, Supersonic has always been a free thing in every game. You always unlock Supersonic in every game. And guess what? Guess what Sega did? They said Sonic will be a free DLC forever. Because they were gonna be mad. Because they were like, it's a core feature that's been in every game. So why do I gotta pay why I gotta pay money now for something that's always been a core staple of the game? So it's the same thing with Pokemon. Bring it. So, like, we don't know that it's going to be a free update yet. We don't know if they're going to go back and update it. We don't know if they're going to even make a sequel to this game in a year. Like they did Sun and Moon, and then a year later they came out with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. We don't know if there's going to be an enhanced version of Sword and Shield yet. But here's the thing, too. You can't bring out an enhanced version of the game a year later and then turn around and be like, hey guys, we put all the Pokemon in. So does that mean I have to spend another 50, $60 just so I can play with my Trico? Like, that's not
Yeah,
cool.
I was gonna
That's
say,
not
yeah,
cool.
I don't think people would like that either. It's like, all right, cool, nerf us on this year, next year, make us pay $50 more for the same game, but with all of our Pokemon, the game that should have came out first. I'm just
Exactly.
looking at something that kind of made me mad. And I was looking like while we were talking last time on the phone, I was looking at the video of the game and I was like, yo, this looks dope. Like you can go into a barbershop and get your hair cut. You can go into a clothing store and you can customize your character and change your clothes. Like you can it's literally a JRPG. You can go to a campsite. You can make food with your Pokemon. That's um, Breath of the Wild right there, right? Like these are features that are dope as shit. Like they're cool. Like your bike turns into a boat. Like you ride onto the water with your bike and it turns into a boat and you can ride on water with your bike. Like that's cool as shit. But you can't bring your Trico. You can't bring like you can't play with your Squirtle. You know what I'm saying? Like all of
Yeah.
these cool features, but you can't do that. And I was talking about how like there's literally, in my opinion, like the dumbest looking thing ever, right? It's a freaking Pokemon that looks like an ice cream sundae. Why would you like? Who wants that? I don't. Again, like I said, I'm not like a big like a core Pokemon fan, so maybe a lot of other people out there have different opinions. But I would much rather have a Trico and or my Squirtle rather than having an ice cream sundae for a fucking Pokemon.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the trailer right now, and they're showing this Pokemon. It's called Pole Tea, guys, and it's basically a fucking Pokemon. It's like a tea kettle. And this Pokemon made it into the game, but fan favorites like Bulbasaur and Squirtle and Trico, they didn't make it into the game. You know, like it makes you wonder like what were they thinking? And again, like I said, like you were saying, if they want to bring this back, like give us these Pokemon at some point, how are they going to go about doing it? Because if they go about doing it in like the shady monetization tactics that a lot of other companies have been doing, where it's like, okay, cool, we're going to give you all of these features that you should have had, but you're going to pay for like a big a big company that everybody's really mad about, really mad at right now is Bethesda. And we're not going to get into that, but like if you know the Bethesda situation, then you already know. And if this is the same thing that they're going to do with this, like nobody wants that. Like they're gonna get a lot of heat for it, which I don't think they would do. I mean, because Nintendo, from me looking at it on the like from the outside, seems like a company that cares about its players and stuff like that. So I don't think they would do that. But the way the video game industry is going now, you never really know with any of these companies, because but people thought like Bethesda was like, the whole like people really loved Bethesda until Fallout 76. You know what I'm saying? So people could really love Game Freak until Sword and Shield. You know what I'm saying? Like it can go either way. And if they bring it back like with DLC, how are they gonna do it? Like are they gonna say, okay, cool, we got Pokemon packs or something like that, right? You got like your 10 Pokemon in this pack here, and then in a couple months we got 10 more Pokemon, and then in a couple months we got 10 more. You know what I'm saying? Like, or they're gonna just like give us all of those Pokemon at once. Um, and like I know a lot of people have like deep attachments to these Pokemon. It's like you were saying, right? Because when it comes to like video games and nerd culture and stuff like that, and I wanted to kind of get into this, but like it's a little off topic, but at the same time it's kind of on topic. Like you were saying, you and Luke, like you've been through a lot together. Like that's your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like you've had Luke for a long time, and a lot of other people have deep attachments to these Pokemon, like you do. Some even more. You know what I'm saying? And it gets to the point where it's like these like things that we grew up with as kids, like literally saved lives. Like kind of growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like I know this is like going off topic, but like when you think about it, it's like that little kid that got bullied, in elementary or middle school, right? For liking something or like not being too tall or too handsome or whatever, or being a nerd, like went home and like found solace in playing Pokemon. Like he escaped the troubles of his reality by like going home and actually booting up his little Game Boy and going on an adventure with Pikachu. And then
Yeah,
as
you're right.
he got older, he bought that Pikachu from that game into the next game, and then like him and his Pikachu kind of grew together, right? And then like coming into this game and saying, okay, cool, we're gonna take that away from you. You can look at your Pikachu may not be a good example, but like you kind of get where I'm going, right? Like
Yeah, I
you
get what
can
you're
look
going.
at you can look at your Pokemon on the computer in this new thing that we have for you all. Again, that you have to pay $5 a year for, which isn't bad. I mean, it's like we did the math. It's like less than $3 a day. $5 a year isn't bad. I mean, it is what it is. But you can look at your Pokemon that you had all these memories with that literally probably saved your life as a kid. But you can't bring them into the game. You can't make new memories with them, which I think is the part that hurts the most for a lot of people. And like I know, Game Freak, like the people at Game Freak, like I would assume that they understand this because I would assume that a lot of them over there at the studio are big Pokemon fans themselves. Like maybe Pokemon saved some of their lives when they were growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they have these attachments to these Pokemon like we all do. Maybe there was that same kid that got bullied, in middle school or high school or whatever for liking what he liked and went home to escape to the world of Pokemon. Actually grew up, went to college, got that degree, and then went to work at Game Freak. You know what I'm saying? So so like I would assume that they understand where we're coming from, or at least like they understand the situation. And I know they were like they had to make executive decisions and stuff like that, like what to put in the game and stuff like that. But like you were saying, some of the features could have been taken out. Like going to get your haircut is dope as shit, right? But I mean, maybe like you take that feature out and you can bring that feature into the like and you can give people an option to do that, and a lot of people will be pissed off about that, but at least they would have their Pokemon, you know what I'm saying? Or like you can keep the same, what is the Pokebank that used to be a thing, and they change it for something else. Maybe keep that feature and take away the $5 a month feature, or keep that same feature and then basically just like say, okay, cool. Well, I mean, I guess nobody would like that either because I was gonna say keep that same feature and just charge a premium version for it, but I don't think people like that either, even if it was just $5. But there were ways I think around this, but like I said, I just kind of wanted to get into that, like how important actually having your favorite Pokemon in a Pokemon game is to some people. I've been reading comments and stuff like that online and stuff. So the world, like again, the world is beautiful. The game looks amazing. Like there are all of these features in it that makes me like I would have a lot of fun in this world. Like I would have a lot of fun playing this game, and not having a Squirtle in the game doesn't really too much affect me because like I didn't really grow up with it. But for other people, I mean, it's a big deal, and I'm not sure if they truly as a whole company. I don't think they truly understand that because like it's a new system and they're trying new things and stuff like that, and you know they want to add new features to the game, and it looks like they've added a couple new features to the game, but like that Gigantamax form thing, I mean, doesn't appeal to me. It kind of looks stupid because like the Pokeball like like triples, quadruples the size of it, and they throw it up into the air, and then the big ass Pokemon like comes out, and the Pokemon is like 100 stories tall, and it's like, why do you need why do you need that? Like Gyarados is already huge as shit. Like why do you need a hundred times size? Like why do you need 100 times size Gyarados? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, but I mean, like me personally, if I had a Switch, I would still get the game because I don't have a deep attachment to these Pokemon like a lot of other people. But I've seen some people say like, and like even big YouTubers say, "Hey, yo, this might be the game that I don't get, or this might be my last Pokemon. Like, this might be my last Pokemon game because of like where they're going with the series." And I
And
mean,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, you can go because I was about to like transition over to you anyway. So what were you saying?
no, no, and you're absolute. I mean, and you're right. Everything you said is right. At the end of the day, whether you're a longtime fan or not, I mean, I'm always gonna advocate for anybody. Please make your own informed decision. Go based off of everything you've probably heard here or from other YouTubers, or maybe you want to, or maybe everything you've read and you've learned about, and maybe you're gonna be like me, a longtime fan of Pokemon. Maybe you're gonna go get it day one, right? I'm personally gonna get the Switch Lite. I might get the Switch Lite that comes bundled with the Sword and Shield game, that special edition one, but that probably will be limit. That'll probably be in limited supply, so I'll probably just get like a Switch Lite and then just pick up the game. But are you gonna wait to maybe? see a little bit of it before you go out and get it, that's probably most likely what I'm gonna do. Are you still gonna go out and get it day one? Definitely let us know, especially if you are a Switch player, a longtime Nintendo fan, a longtime Pokemon fan. Definitely let us know, because I know Game Freak and Pokemon as a whole has been really taking like a really different, they really have switched up a little bit of how Pokemon is approached now, especially with the success of Pokemon Go. Then they released Pokemon Masters, but Pokemon Masters is a whole different debate, because that game came out and it was fire, and then you basically plow through the entire game in like an afternoon, and then you're just like, basically the game has no content. The game has no content, but Pokemon has also been trying to approach this like mobile game formula, like with all their games, and it's just like the biggest thing for me was like catching the Pokemon is like the Let's Go mechanics, and or like it's like the Pokemon Go mechanic, and it's like I don't want that mechanic in my games. I'm like, like they're trying to over appease to this casual audience, and it's just like, what about the people who really love, I mean, I understand with everything changes with time, I get that, but it's like they've been overly catering to casual, like to casuals, and it's just like, what happened to the people who've been playing since day one? What happens to, what happens to me or Joe, who's been playing since Pokemon Red and Blue, like the very first games we got here in the West? Like, what happens to us? Because it feels like now Pokemon wants to take this complete casual approach now to their games, and the longtime fans are getting left in the dust. And like, oh, and I'm not saying Pokemon Sword and Shield will still sell at the end of the day. It will still make money. It will still be successful. Pokemon is the most successful franchises of all time. Nothing is happening to Pokemon. But at the same time, Pokemon will always sell to kids, because at the end of the day, it's meant for the kids. But I know that there are people at Game Freak that know there have been people that have been playing this game since they were 10 years old. And now we're like 20-year-olds, 20-something year olds. So it really just, like I said, let us know everything that you guys think about this. I don't want to ramble on this too much longer. If you're going to go pick up the game, please let us know why. If you're not going to pick up the game, please let us know why. Tweet at us, please, at NerdShitDaily. I definitely want to hear how you guys feel about that. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Keon?
No, actually, that's it. I think that's like a good ending point. And if anybody wants to add their opinion, that's a good place for us to continue the conversation with other people if they want to, continue the conversation with us. Again, Nurture Daily. Tweet at us. I'll try my best to remember to put it into the description on the YouTube page. But yeah, tweet at us. Let us know what you think. If you're going to get the game, how do you feel about it? Are you a longtime fan? And how do you feel about the new features? How do you feel about the Gigantamax form? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let us know. We want to know. We want to talk to you all. But anyway, we're going to move forward into the PS that is the B. No, the BS that is the PS.
I love that tagline, by the way. I love that little line. That line is dope.
Oh, man. So, I have right here in front of me, I have a subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud. So, with all of the apps, so I get it for free. But the first BS that is the PS. Take a shot every time I say BS that is a PS. No, but anyway, the first feature, if you will, that I personally don't like is it's $13.49 a month if you do not have a subscription to the Creative Cloud, which I don't think it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like you and we're gonna get into why I don't think you're worth it, why it's worth it, but that's $14 a month for Photoshop on the iPad. When Photoshop on your computer is only $10 a month if you get it by itself, and if you get it bundled, actually, yeah, it's like $10 by itself. Like, and that actually comes with Lightroom. So you get a better bundle if you get it on your computer than getting it on your iPad. And like you can make the argument that okay, cool, well, getting it on your computer is less convenient. Well, getting it on your iPad is more convenient because now you can actually take your PSD files, on a train with you, on like on the go with you, right? And you don't have to have a computer with you. If you don't have a laptop, then I mean it's a better alternative anyway, which would have been the case if it had been, the feature full app that we want. But I'm just gonna go into a couple things. Well, my experience that I had when I first opened it. Right, I was like my buddy. Well, this person I met at a Comic Con. We became friends on Instagram, and he's an artist. I'm an artist as well. So he hit me up. He was like, "Yo, Photoshop is available on the iPad now." And as soon as he hit me up, because he hit me up early in the morning, right? And like right when I woke up, I saw it. I was like, "Okay, cool." I ran over to my iPad. I went to the App Store and I downloaded it, and I was excited. I was like, "Yo, it's here." I'm a photographer, videographer, and a graphic design artist. If you didn't know, so I want to use it mostly for my photography because I have Lightroom on my iPad, which is pretty decent. It's not as good as the Lightroom on the computer, and I assumed that Photoshop would be pretty good, but not as good as it would be on the computer. But I didn't know it would be this bad. So I opened it and I opened the photo and I was gonna do just like I was gonna try some retouching in it, right? Because that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to do retouching and I wanted to do photo retouching with specifically with frequency separation. So I do my thing, right. I open a photo. I duplicate the layers and stuff like that. I name one blur and then I name one texture or so I blur the first layer. That works perfectly fine because there's a Gaussian blur, which is the only effect you can get. There's a Gaussian blur in the iPad, and then I go to the top one, right? And then if you know anything about frequency separation, you want to click the top layer, the texture layer, right? And you want to go to apply image, and you want to use then you want to basically source the blur image from that image, whatever, right? There's no way to apply image onto the iPad. So if you want to do photo retouching, it's basically dumbed down to the clone and the heal tool. That's the only thing that they have. Also, you can't import brushes. That's a big thing for Photoshop, right? If you're an artist in Photoshop, you want to import your own brushes and stuff like that. You want to be able to like customize your brushes. You can't really even do that in the small like little things that you can customize about your brush. Once you go to a different brush or like a different action and go back to that brush, it resets, which is absolutely like why why, right? Because other apps like Procreate and Art Studio Pro, apps that I use a lot, they have extensive like options to change your brushes and stuff like that. Obviously they're a lot older than the Photoshop for the iPad, but it's Photoshop, the industry standard. So you would assume that although like it's version one, all of these features are coming into the future, right? But why put out this app that is basically unfinished? Like again, you have I'm gonna click on one of these layers that I have right here real quick so I can tell you all what they got in here, right? So you got your blend modes and stuff like that, which is cool. You have effects. You can't even do your effects. So like if you wanted to add a shadow, like a drop shadow onto like a logo or something like that, you can't do that. Those features will come in the future, but they're not there now. You don't have any smart filters. And then where else? Where is that? Okay, again, like I said, filters and adjustments. You only have Gaussian blur and invert. And then like it's missing so much. There's not even a blur tool. Like I don't like it just made me like I got heated. I got heated when I opened this app. And then another thing, right? If you're an artist, if you like to draw on your iPad and stuff like that, you can't even rotate the canvas, which you would think is a very small feature to add, but you can't do that, right? Um, Man, I can go all day about the features that they don't have in this right here. And I know you personally, you use Photoshop for your thumbnails and stuff like that. But I don't think you have an iPad. But I mean, do you have any opinions on this? Because like I said, I can go all day about like how pissed off I am about this.
No, 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 no. You're fine. And like and as someone who uses Photoshop too, I mean, I have the Creative Cloud suite. So I get access to all that stuff. If I had a tablet, I would also have access to that Photoshop. But to see that to hear from you that it limits just some of the features that you would just think would just come standard on the platform. Like, I guess you could be like, oh well, it's for the tablet, it's not supposed to be like a full-fledged thing. But then at the same time, it's like there are people out here that have an iPad Pro like you do, and an iPad Pro is, and for those people who don't know that are listening to the podcast, for those of you guys who don't know, you can run a video editing software on the iPad Pro. The thing is basically a laptop. It's powerful. Like, it's powerful. So it's like, if I can run video editing software on this, I should be able to run basically a full functioning Photoshop on this tablet. And so, like, to hear like you only get Gaussian blur, you can't rotate the canvas, like certain like little things that is like, okay, I should do that. I should be able to do this in Photoshop. You've got people who have been using Photoshop for years. You've got people who've been using the Adobe Suite for years. So these are things that are gonna be second nature to an Adobe user. Someone who is very, you know,
Real quick before you continue. Speaking of second nature to an Adobe user, they changed the hotkeys, so you can use a keyboard with your iPad Pro, obviously, but they changed the hotkeys. So if you're using a keyboard with your iPad and you're trying to use Photoshop, your hotkeys aren't the same as they would be on your computer, and you can't change them. Maybe you can change them. I'm not sure, but again, they changed the hotkeys. So why would you change the hotkeys? Even if you can go back and change them, why would you do
wow,
that to a 20-year-old program, right?
yeah,
Like
no,
it's baked into people's muscle memory. Um,
yeah,
and then
that's like somebody. Oh, sorry to cut you off, but I was just gonna say that's basically saying Control C. It's like, oh, Control C and Control V is copy paste, right? Oh, now it's Control A, Control P. Like, what?
some features that are coming into to Photoshop soon, coming to Photoshop, right? And they said they're going to be really aggressive with the updates, which I think they should have just kept the app and then released it in 2020. Nobody would have been mad. Nobody would have had maybe people would have said like, oh, Adobe didn't deliver on their promise or something like that. But once they got the app and they got a full app, they would have been happy. And Adobe, and everybody, including myself, like when Adobe said Photoshop is coming to the iPad, Adobe wasn't really clear with their intentions to begin with, in my opinion, because they said this is real Photoshop. And when you look into that, right, people are like, oh, real Photoshop is coming to the iPad, so we're gonna have Photoshop for the iPad, but real Photoshop doesn't mean the full Photoshop. And I think like maybe it's a marketing tactic that they use or something like that, or maybe we as consumers just weren't. We were so happy to hear that Photoshop is coming to the iPad that we didn't really pay much attention to what they were saying, because its first iteration is only good for light compositing, and I say light compositing very generously, but that's the only thing is good for. Like, the app is basically useless at this point in its current
Whew.
state. iPad Photoshop, iPad Photoshop version 1. But some things that are coming to the future, right? There's a tab within it that says, I'm gonna click on it, that says suggest what's next for Photoshop, because they know that they don't have all of the features, so they want to get, I guess, the community's input, so you can suggest a feature. And then when you go into suggest a feature, there's a coming to Photoshop. So these are things that are already coming. Rotate canvas should have been in version 1. Shapes and paths, they have bring your own brushes, should have been in version 1. They have adjust curves. You can't even adjust curves in this thing. Color swatches. Bring your own fonts. Smart objects, grids and guides, and more. Um,
Grids? Wait, you can't even
yeah.
set up a
So
grid?
nope. Can't even do the grids. You can't like from a photography standpoint. You can't even import raw photos into this version of Photoshop, which is you can't edit a photo in this Photoshop right now. Like there's like some minor you can do hue and saturation and stuff like that. You can do brightness and all of that stuff. But I mean, so many features are missing, man. Like it's wild. Like a good feature, right, is it connects to the one on your it connects to the the Photoshop on your computer. So you can start something in here and then open it up on your computer and actually finish it properly. But then once you do all of those things onto your computer, you can actually come back onto your iPad and continue working on it. But if you're using any effects, if you're using any curves, or if you're using anything like that that's not available on this version of it, you can't adjust them. It'll let you see them. You can toggle them on and off and stuff like that, but you can't actually use it. And I was actually making a sticker for someone, right? Like I drew something into in Photoshop or whatever, right? And I was gonna make him a sticker, and I wanted to put a border around it. Under the blending options, you go down to path or stroke or something like that, and you bring the stroke up to however thick you want it to be. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to add a border, a black border around this little silhouette that I had, and I did everything on the iPad. I was doing it. I was like, okay, cool. Let me test it out. This is when I first opened the app. This is like my second or third project in here. You can't do that. You can't add a path around a silhouette. So I mean, like I don't know what to say, man. Like you couldn't do that. Well, you can't do that, and that pissed me off because what I had to do is, it's actually really fast though. So once you save it in here and you have the Creative Cloud, you go to your computer and it's already there, which is good. But that feature should already be on the iPad.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? And I think what you're really trying to say is like it's not a bad thing that Photoshop is on the iPad. It's just right now it's disappointing. And I think that's what hurts. It's not that
So disappointing.
it's disappointing. And honestly sometimes when you're disappointed it hurts more. It hurts a lot more when you're disappointed because we know Adobe is the juggernaut of creative. They're such a juggernaut and they still are. They're such a
I mean,
juggernaut of the
they're
creative
the
field.
industry standard. Like big
Yeah.
studios like use this,
Yeah,
and
no, 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 yeah.
to put out this right here, knowing that like what Photoshop has to offer on your desktop. I mean, again, like I said, I don't think anyone would have been mad if they would have just kept this app until 2020, and then they would have like put everything in that they should have put in the beginning. Because again, it's not like this version of it is not for digital artists. Like if you draw, go to Art Studio Pro, go to Procreate. Like leave this app the fuck alone. If you're a photographer, stick to Lightroom. Leave this app the fuck alone. Don't use it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do some light compositing, if you want to like I don't know, put a person in like fucking clouds or some shit like that. If you want to make it look like somebody's walking on water or some shit like that, then you can use this, but lightly. Again, like I said, there's a lot of things that I'm missing. Like you can only use Gaussian blur as um as one of those blur options. Also, clip adjustment layers. You got brightness, contrast, black and white, color balance, exposure, hue, saturation, levels, vibrance. But you can't use those to edit a raw photo. Again, I don't know, man.
I Yeah, I mean, so coming, like I said, we're both Photoshop users. I know you've been really heavy on using your tablet a lot, um, and using that stuff. So coming from that situation, knowing everything that Photoshop does offer, to see them skimp it down so much to basically a bare, like not even like bare bones, because it's even missing some of the most basic things that a lot of people use all the time. Yeah, it probably should have stayed in the oven. It probably definitely should have stayed in the oven until 2020, rolled out all those updates, and then not even came with way more features, and then like been like, okay, we will update this going forward. Because right now you're basically saying I don't recommend this until it gets updated any further, until it gets updates.
Exactly. Like we all know, once they add the features to this, it's going to be absolutely amazing. Having Photoshop like at your fingertips, in your hand, on the go, in a tablet format, touch format. I mean, like just using things like the selection tool and stuff like that is going to be game changing, right? But as of now, I mean, it's not the way to go. Absolutely. Like, I don't recommend this to anyone. I don't care how like new you are to Photoshop or how new you are to digital art and design or anything like that. I do not recommend this app to you whatsoever, unless you have a Creative Cloud subscription already. Then, I mean, I still don't recommend it to you because that's Art Studio Pro, which is the closest thing to Photoshop on the iPad at the moment. Well, okay, there's Affinity Photo as well, which is amazing at doing all of the things that Photoshop does. So there's Affinity Photo and there's Art Studio Pro, and then if you want to draw, Procreate, Art Studio Pro. I recommend those apps over this one 10 times over. Like until they bake these features in, I would leave this alone until maybe next year. Give it 6 months, and then this is going to be a decent app. But until then, don't touch it. Leave it alone, unless you want to do like some minor things, or unless you want to like start something on your computer, and then you got to like go into a meeting or something like that, and you just want to show what you've done so far and not actually work on it. Then you can say, okay, cool. Pull up Photoshop and say, all right, look, this is what I got so far. This is what I'm working with. And once I get back home to actual Photoshop, I want to finish it. You know what I
And
mean?
yeah, and you know what, man, at the end of the day, maybe that was the intent. But when you're talking about bringing something as powerful as Photoshop to tablet devices, or just bringing it over to just something as powerful as the Pro, where the Pro can handle that, it's kind of jarring to see them strip a lot of those features away. So I mean, honestly, for tablet users, in the comment section below, let me know. Let us know, how do you feel about the Photoshop being on if you have an iPad Pro. Let us know what you're using. Let us know if you are a heavy tablet user. Let us know if you're not. Even if you just are a fan of Adobe products and you just use stuff like I said, I use Adobe. I have the Adobe suite. I use it on my laptop. But just to hear that the tablet version that if you have a higher end tablet that can run that, to hear that you don't even get things like rotating the canvas, how does that make you feel? Because for those of you who have an Adobe subscription, you pay for this. Like, we pay for this. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like, you have the right to be like, hey, this need when are you guys rolling out these features? Because that you pay for it. You know what I mean? So let us know how you guys feel about it in the comment section below. Or for everyone else that is listening, definitely tweet at us at Nerd Shit Daily. We're gonna have some. I mean, we're gonna have some interesting conversations for the people that speak up. But definitely, we want to know how you feel, especially your heavy tablet users, people who need something that's super powerful, but you want it in a nice condensed form. And that iPad Pro is definitely probably the way to go for a lot of people. Or if you have a really
Exactly.
nice high end tablet. So
Yeah. I mean, it's the perfect way to go. And I was just in a Microsoft store the other day. Well, yesterday actually. And I was talking to one of the reps there, and I was telling her like my perfect idea of an on the go workflow is Lightroom Mobile. Again, Lightroom Mobile doesn't have all of the features that Lightroom on your Lightroom CC has, but Lightroom Classic. I'm sorry, Lightroom Classic has on your computer, but I mean it's still pretty good. it's still like probably the best editing app for a mobile workflow. And bringing those photos into Photoshop and retouching them, that was like my perfect on the go, like my dream, right? And I was telling her like Photoshop for iPad just came out and it's absolute trash. So would you recommend me to switch over to a Surface Book Pro? Which um, she ultimately told me not to do that because the iPad Pros is it's a beast of a piece of hardware. Like the refresh rate is 120 hertz. So 120 hertz. There's nothing that beats the Apple Pencil as far as like lag and latency and stuff like that. You can definitely notice a difference. Like even when I go into the store and I play around with the apps, you can definitely notice a difference. So to have something this powerful in your hand and to have an app like Photoshop available but not being able to use all of that power when you know it's possible. Another thing, the Photoshop app is it has a lot of bugs. It's a little laggy. Like I know I'm talking about the refresh rate with the pencil and the screen and stuff like that, but if you actually pay attention, the brushes on in this first version of Photoshop are not very intuitive. Like there's a bit of lag, which if you have been using the other apps, you would definitely notice it. If you're somebody who like, you know what, it's kind of like running an emulated version of Photoshop on the Microsoft Surface X. Go Google, go YouTube that real quick, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. And that's how this version of Photoshop is. But yeah, like he was saying, like Shooting Star Sheriff was saying, if you have any comments, if you want to join the conversation with us, please do. Nerd Shit Daily on Twitter, or if you're on YouTube, please down in the comments below. Let us know what you think. What are your thoughts? And were you waiting for this app to come out so you can get an iPad, or are you gonna stick with Sidecar if you have a MacBook already? Because you can use full Photoshop on your iPad if you use Sidecar, which is a new feature in Catalina on your MacBook that allows you to use your iPad as a second screen, which might be the way to go for some people. But this would like what we wanted was to have this like outside of our home. You know what I'm saying? Maybe go sit, go to a friend's house and not have to bring your big computer or something like that. But yeah, again, let us know what you think down in the comments below or tweet at us. Again, thank you all so much for tuning into Nerd Shit. This is episode 6. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Later, guys.